1969, man performed two feats that staggered the imagination of the American public. One took place in mid-July, 250,000 miles from planet Earth, when man first landed on the moon. The other took place in October, here on planet Earth on a baseball diamond, when the 100-to-1 underdog New York Mets became the world champions of baseball. How did the American public react to both events? They used one word.
Amazing! Amazing!
Amazing!
Amazing!
Amazing! Amazing!
Amazing!
Amazing!
Amazing!
Amazing!
Amazing!
Amazing!
Asombrosos! Amazing! Amazing!
Amazing!
It's just amazing!
'69, an exciting year for baseball. It marked professional baseball's 100th anniversary and the inauguration of the League Championship Series. And now the World Series, the New York Mets and the Baltimore Orioles. The Baltimore Orioles dominated the American League East and took 3 straight from the Minnesota Twins in the first American League Championship Series. Most experts rated the Birds as one of the strongest, best-balanced ball clubs ever sent into a World Series by the American League. In hitting, fielding, pitching, power, speed, and experience, they had the likes of such proven stars as Frank Robinson, Boog Powell, Brooks Robinson, Dave Johnson, Mark Belanger, Don Buford, and Paul Blair. Baltimore was the logical favorite against the amazing New York Mets, whose dramatic performance in 1969 was the talk of the nation. From the depths of the second division, the champions of the National League East to National League champs following a 3-game sweep over the Atlanta Braves. Baltimore owner Jerry Hoffberger had a right to be confident, along with manager Earl Weaver and such American League greats as Ted Williams and League President Joe Cronin. It's a perfect day in Baltimore's Memorial Stadium. The cameras are poised, ready to bring to millions of fans the beginning of one of the truly remarkable World Series.
It's a gorgeous day here in Baltimore, Maryland today. The temperature is 75 degrees. I'm Kurt Gowdy of NBC. This is Bill O'Donnell, the Baltimore Oriole broadcaster. Lindsey Nelson will be with us in New York when we move to Shea Stadium. And down on the field is my Game of the Week sidekick, Tony Kubek. He'll be roaming the stands with interesting guests and sidelights in this series. I think you can just about sum up the '69 World Series as saying, if you pick it on paper, it's the Orioles. They have the best statistics in hitting, in power, lowest staffer and run average. They've made the fewest errors. But the Mets didn't win the National League on paper. On paper, they didn't look as good as the Cardinals and the Cubs. They won it on the field, and that's what they're hoping to do here today. And, of course, the Mets not only have fans now in the New York area, they've become a national team as well. The starting pitchers today, right in back of me, is Tom Seaver. Just 24 years old, starting a World Series game in this his third Major League season, and he was the winningest pitcher in the Major Leagues this year. He won 25 games. We have almost opposites here today, young and old, right and left. Mike Cuellar is 32 years old, and he was the winningest left-hander in the majors today, as he won 23 ball games. So it's Cuellar for the Orioles, Tom Seaver for the New York Mets. And now let's get over here to Bill O'Donnell for his pregame comments. Bill does an outstanding job of broadcasting for the Baltimore Orioles. Bill?
Thank you very much, Kurt, and it's a delight indeed to join you this afternoon. Kurt used the word opposite in his pregame comments, and actually both these clubs won their pennants in opposite ways. The Orioles, from practically the middle of April, just breezed to the American League pennant. On the other hand, the Mets had to fight their way to win the National League pennant, although they had kind of a breeze winning the National League Championship Series over Atlanta. They had to come from mid-August until mid-September before they finally caught and then went ahead of the Chicago Cubs to win the Eastern Division.
It's Tom Seaver warming up in front of the New York Met dugout. And Mike Cuellar just to the side of the Baltimore dugout. The Baltimore Orioles dugout is in back of third, and the visiting or Met dugout is in back of first base. David Eisenhower and Mrs. Eisenhower. Julie. Cuellar cannot warm up. He has to wait until this traffic's out of the way. And now he turns aside and starts back to the dugout.
Kurt, normally in intense situations like this, and obviously before the first game of a World Series, in pressure situations, that is, normally Cuellar is not a fellow who is easily disturbed. But I'm sure, as most baseball fans and baseball experts are aware, nothing is more important before a ball game than a pitcher getting that arm warm and also getting ready. And over the last 4 or 5 minutes, Cuellar has not been able to get ready as he would like to get ready.
All right, here's the commissioner who was put in as a temporary commissioner, but who did such an outstanding job that he was signed a long-term, very healthy contract. An articulate, dynamic man who has proven to be a great leader for baseball. There's his pitch to Ellie Hendricks, the catcher of the Orioles. And now one more. Hendricks again. Jerry Grody, the catcher of the Mets, now gets to receive a first pitch to open the '69 World Series. And so the ceremonies are out of the way. We've already had the meeting at home plate among the umpires and the two managers. As the Orioles take the field, here's Bill O'Donnell.
Well, Kurt, if this 1969 World Series has the type of play that both of these clubs were involved in during the 1969 regular season, I'm sure that we're going to see one of the most exciting World Series of all times.
All right, let's set up the Orioles defensively. Boog Powell's at first base. Dave Johnson's at second. Mark Belanger's at shortstop, and Brooks Robinson at third. It's a brilliant infield for the Orioles. In left field, Don Buford. Paul Blair's in center field, and Frank Robinson is the right fielder. Ellie Hendricks will be catching, and Mike Cuellar, 32 years old, the starting pitcher of the '69 series for the Orioles. He throws 5 pitches. His out pitch, or the pitch he likes to use in a jam, especially to right-handers, is a screwball. Born in Cuba, lives now in Puerto Rico. His 13th professional season, his 6th season in the majors. He pitched for Cincinnati, St. Louis, and Houston prior to joining the Orioles this season. It was a great pickup.
The leadoff batter for New York.
Tom Agee, and you'd have to look this up. How many leadoff men in a World Series have ever led their team in runs batted in? Agee led the Mets in RBIs with 76. Hit .271, 26 homers. Good power to center and to right center. The first pitch of the series is a strike. Cuellar pitched last Saturday, and so did Seaver. Seaver usually works with 4 days rest. Cuellar with only 3. Foul back, strike 2. On deck, Bud Harrelson. The 2-2 delivery, 3-2. He had him 2 strikes. Now it's a full count. Three and two. Drilled down to Robinson at third. right here in Baltimore. Brooks Robinson coming up with a ground ball. Voted the greatest all-time player for the Orioles. Hank Soares behind the plate, his 5th World Series of the American League. Frank Sartori at first, his 4th World Series. Larry Knapp of the American League at second, his 4th series. Shag Crawford of the National League at third, his 3rd. Lou DeMuro umpiring his 1st series in the left field line, and Lee Wire, the National League, on the right field line, his 1st World Series. 6 umpires assigned to today's game. Ball 1 to Bud Harrelson. Hit .248. No homers, 24 RBIs. Slam foul outside third. 2 balls and a strike to Bud Harrelson. Cleon Jones is on deck. The Mets have there's Jones, have their right-handed batters in today. They have 9 right-handed batters in the lineup. They won with left-handers against the Braves, but Gil Hodges platoon. Foul out of play, and the count's 2-2. Player, though, is very effective against right-handers with that screwball, isn't he, Bill?
Kurt, there's also some philosophy, at least from some American League managers, that they feel that left-hand hitters handle Cuellar as well as right-hand hitters handle him.
Hit to Robinson again on an easy hop. 2 down. Yogi Berra coaching at first, Eddie Yost at third. Yogi's been in more World Series games, twice as much as all the players combined here in this stadium today.
Number 21, Cleon Jones.
He has been in 75 World Series games, 14 series with the Yankees, of course, where he piled up most of those games. 2 down, and Cleon Jones, the batter, a product of the Met farm system who's developed into a star. It's a strike zone. 3rd leading batter in the National League, hitting .340. 12 homers, 75 RBIs. He can spray the ball around. Ground ball out of the reach of Belanger. There's your first hit of the 1969 series. Cleon Jones on first with a single to center. Here's Don Clendenin. .248, 16 homers, 51 runs batted in. 1-1 to him. Ball 2. 2-1. Is Cuellar as sharp with his control today as he usually is, Bill? He's struggling a little. He's 3-2, and he's 2-2.
Well, the one thing that we haven't seen yet from Cuellar, and he throws it quite a bit, he's got a big rainbow soft curve.
Breaking away from that right-hander. 2-2 now.
Kurt, his pitching coach, George Bamberger, has said quite a few times during the season, everybody talks about Cuellar's screwball, but not too many people have talked about what Bamberger feels is a good Cuellar fastball and also that change-up curve.
The 2-2 delivery. Took him out, and the Mets were gone in the top of the 1st. No runs, 1 hit, there were no errors, 1 man left. Middle of the 1st inning to score. The Mets nothing. The Orioles are coming to bat.
Baltimore's ace left-hander, 24-game winner Mike Cuellar, handles the Mets easily in the top of the 1st.
Now let's set up the Mets defensively. Don Clendenin's at first base. Al Weiss at second. Bud Harrelson to shortstop. Ed Charles is at third. Cleon Jones in left field. Tom Agee in center. Ron Swoboda, the right fielder. Jerry Grody, the catcher. And Tom Seaver, the pitcher. Incidentally, the Mets, famous over the years for giving games away and making mistakes in the field, are a very, very sound defensive team. They finished second in the National League in fielding. And one of the reasons they're in this World Series is because they didn't make too many mistakes in the field during this past season. And there's a winningest pitcher in the Major League this year, 24-year-old Tom Seaver, who won 25 and lost 7. Lives in Manhattan Beach, California, born in Fresno. A handsome, articulate, chosen National League Rookie of the Year in '67. Showed outstanding promise then and is developing into one of the real stars of the game. Don Buford, Hit .291 during the season, 11 homers and 64 RBI. And he can get on base. Ball one to him. Seaver, a good fastball. Hard slider. Uses sort of a rolling curve as a changeup. A high drive into deep right. Swoboda backing up, drawing a bead right in front of the wall and can't get it. Buford leads off with a home run. What a way to lead off a World Series.
Mets manager Gil Hodges names 25-game winner Tom Seaver to start for New York. Don Buford, Baltimore's leadoff batter, quickly jolts young Seaver with a home run. Here's that home run again. Watch Ron Swoboda. Did he go back fast enough or far enough? 1-0 Baltimore.
It's actually a little bit unusual for Seaver to give up a home run. In better than 200 innings, he only gave up 24 home run pitches during the regular year.
Foul, 0-2.
Kurt, right now, Seaver's leaning a little bit more on that breaking stuff of his rather than his best equipment, which is supposed to be that good hard fastball. But there was a second.
One out. George Stoller coaching at first for the Orioles and Billy Hunter at third. Frank Robinson, the judge. Hit .308 for the year, 32 homers, 100 RBIs. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Frank Robinson. The outfield deep in a step toward left. Struck him out on a high fastball. This game is authorized under television rights granted by Major League Baseball for the entertainment of our audience, and any publication, reproduction, retransmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of the Commissioner of Baseball is prohibited. Well, if you're new to Boog Powell and the Orioles, when you heard that Boog, no booing, they're just yelling out his nickname. Right, Seaver is firing now. He has that riding fastball that rises, and when you sit in the dugout, the ball players say it walks. It just takes off on you. Base hit to right by Powell. Ron Swoboda up. Back into Al Weiss. 2 down, Powell on first.
We see the power now of Powell coming right with the ball about belt high and a little bit on the inside corner. This is where Powell normally likes the ball, belt high and just over the inside corner of the plate. Most pitchers try to keep the ball away and down on Powell, but he got that ball belt high and belted it for the base knock.
Brooks Robinson hit .234, subpar year for him in batting average. Fly ball to center field. Ranging back is A.G. right on the warning pass for the out. Robinson hit that a long way to straightaway center to retire the side. The Orioles had 1 run, 2 hits, there were no errors, and 1 left. And at the end of the first inning, the score, Baltimore 1 and New York 0. You know, this World Series is truly an international event. Today's game being seen in Canada on both the French and English networks, in Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Panama, St. Thomas and the Virgin Islands, and on a delayed basis in Bogota, Colombia. And the final World Series game will be seen in England and Japan. This annual classic has really become, with the satellites now, the World Series. In Europe, Vietnam, Korea, and around the world, the Armed Forces Radio Service on his 300 radio stations beaming the play-by-play. Ron Swoboda, a local boy, comes home. Reared right here in this Baltimore area. Hit .235 for the season, 9 homers, 52 RBI. He played in this stadium 1 game as a high school boy. 2 strikes to Swoboda. Charles on deck and then Grody. Second strikeout for Cuellar. And here's the oldest player of the non-pitchers in this World Series, veteran Ed Charles, 35 years old. Hit .207, 3 homers, 18 RBI. The 2-2 pitch. And out goes Ed Charles. That's the 3rd strikeout in a row now for Mike Cuellar. 2 down for the Mets, nobody on, and Jerry Grody up. Grody hit .252 this year with 6 homers, 40 RBI. Fastball hit to short. The big hop to Belanger, and the Mets go down 1-2-3 in the second. At the end of an inning and a half, it's the Orioles 1 and the Mets nothing. Let's go down to the stands now to Tony.
Thank you, Kurt. With me down in the field, the Commissioner of Baseball, Bowie Kuhn. And Bowie, if this World Series is anything like those playoffs, it's really going to be something.
It really is. It's starting out on a pretty exciting note. That ball Buford hit was a well-tagged ball. Interesting play out there, I thought. Looks very exciting. We've got Mrs. Nixon and her family here. It's another great day for baseball, I think.
Commissioner, we're going to try and talk to some of the people in your party a little bit later on. Thank you so much.
Good, Tony. Good to see you.
Thank you, Bowie Kuhn, Commissioner of Baseball. Back upstairs.
Ellie Hendricks leads off for the Orioles in the last of the second. Seaver feeds him a curve, ball 1. Hendricks hit .244, 12 homers, 38 runs batted in. He has some power to right. The slow curve has popped up. Ed Charles is calling for it. The Met third baseman has it, 1 down. Brings up Dave Johnson. One reason the Orioles won 109 games, if you look at the bottom of the batting order, Dave Johnson hit .280, batting 7th, and Mark Belanger, the shortstop, hit .287, hitting 8th. They had a bet on their roommates, these two, which one would get the most hits. Belanger won the bet. They bet in spring training. Fly ball into center field. Tom Agee waiting for it, and there are 2 down. Mark Belanger, who has always been known as an outstanding defensive player, but a real question mark with a bat, has probably been one of the biggest surprises of the Major League season. He hit .287, had 2 homers, 51 runs batted in. Charlie Lau, the Oriole hitting coach, helped him a lot. Try, close his stance up a bit, try to get him to wait more and chop down on the ball. Outside. The only shortstop in the majors that hit for a higher average was Boston's Rico Petrocelli, who hit .297. Fella can really feel, can he, Bill?
And with the extra bat, of course, his fielding range is even better, Kurt.
There's a ground ball to third, and that's a quick 1-2-3 inning for Tom Seaver. So at the end of 2 innings, the score, the Baltimore Orioles 1 and the New York Mets nothing. Down in the commissioner's box, the fellow with the dark glasses in the second row is Ted Williams. The owner of the Senators right beside him. Commissioner Giles, after 50 years of outstanding service to baseball with his arms full, the president of the National League. Tricia Nixon. Mrs. Nixon, our first lady. Commissioner Kuhn, Mrs. Kuhn. David Eisenhower and his wife Julie. And wouldn't doubt the Secret Service men. Al Weiss leading off. The strike. Al Weiss hitting .215, 2 homers, 23 runs batted in. Ball 1. When Weiss was with the White Sox, they had a collision at second base. Weiss's knee rammed into the head of Frank Robinson, and Robinson had a head a concussion and had double vision for nearly a year. So these two remember each other, 2-1. That's Tom Seaver, the pitcher, on deck. One run, 2 hits for the Orioles. No runs, 1 hit for the Mets. Cuellar gives up his first walk. Tom Seaver battles you at the plate. He's an all-around athlete. He's a good fielding pitcher. Has good speed. Sticking a base hit now and then. So he's no soft touch up there. Weiss at first, nobody out. 1-0 Baltimore, top of the third. Brooks Robinson creeping in at third, looking for the bunt. Foul back. 0-1. Trying to bunt again. 0-2. Gonna swing. Struck him out. 4 strikeouts for Cuellar. Now we go to the top of the Met batting order, and Tom Agee, who grounded out to third his first time. Ground ball to short. Belanger to Johnson for 1 on the first. Double play. An easy double play. The Mets are all out in the third. No runs, no hits, no errors, nobody left. At the end of 2.5, Baltimore 1 and New York 0. I see you've got old number 9 there, Tony.
Hey, Kurt. Ted said to say hi to you. Ted, he's up on top there, but what about this Baltimore hitting as a team?
Well, I want to tell you, I saw them all year, as you know, and they just seemed like a club that if they needed a run, they could get a run. And they got hitting all through their lineup. As far as I'm concerned, they're an outstanding ball club.
And they can do more than just hit, too, can't they, Ted? They can play defense.
That's right. They have a well-balanced club. Certainly the best balanced club in our league, I would say. And,
Ted, congratulations to you on your fine year, and we may talk to you later. Thank you so much.
Mike Cuellar got a hand when he came up. The first pitch to him was ball 1. 1-1. The 2-2 pitch. That is strikeout number 3 for Tom Seaver. And here is Buford coming up, getting a hand for his home run. Those are the season records of both teams for the years. Both had the most wins in the majors. Both swept the playoffs. So it's only fitting they should be meeting here in the series. Tom Buford's done, I think, a very nice thing. He's invited his old college coach and his son to be his guest here at the World Series. Ball 1. Rod Daydew, the University of Southern California baseball coach, and his son Justin are here. The 1-0 pitch. Bounding ball to the right side. Weiss can't make a play. We'll see how they score that one. An error has been charged to Al Weiss. The scorers today are Dick Young, New York Daily News, who's president of the Baseball Writers Association, Lou Hatter of the Baltimore Sun, and Joe Durso of the New York Times. And they score by committee. In other words, each gives a decision. 2 out of 3 win. Curveball is hit high in the air in the left field. Jones looking up there in that bright sun. 2 down. Buford gets back. Here's Frank Robinson now, who struck out his first time. 2 down. 2-1 the count. There he goes. Curveball hit the third. Ed Charles up with it. And the Orioles are out in the third. No runs. No hits. There was 1 error, 1 man left. At the end of 3, it is Baltimore 1 and New York 0. You know, baseball and NBC have been partners for longer than most people realize. The first sports event ever televised was the Princeton-Columbia College baseball game back in May of 1939. There were about 487-inch screen television sets around New York at the time. They didn't have ratings in those days, but we know that 28,600,000 homes, a record for a sports telecast, tuned in the fourth game of the World Series last year at Detroit. Strike one to Bud Harrelson, who grounded out his first time up. Straight away for him. Harrelson, Jones, and Clendenin for the Mets. Bounding ball to Robinson. They call him the human vacuum sweeper here. He just sweeps up everything. In fact, that left side of the Baltimore infield, you've got to really hit a shot to get it through between Robinson covering the line at third, ranging to his left, and Belanger with his great range at short. One out, nobody on. Cleon Jones singled his first time. Fly ball to left. Don Buford puts it away, and we have two down. Since that Buford home run, we haven't really had a ball hit hard. Don Clendenin struck out his first time. There's a drive in the left center for a base hit. They're trying to cut it off. It goes to the fence. Clendenin will have extra bases and is in with a stand-up double. The Mets have their second hit.
Kurt, fortunately, as Clendenin came through to get that double that went past Buford in deep left center field, he got that pitch on the outside corner, and he managed to pull it pretty well to the left center field pocket alley. And luckily, Blair had backed up Buford, or else Clendenin might have had a chance to go to third.
Ron Swoboda struck out his first time. Fly ball, right center. Paul Blair going for it. Has a beat on it. And the Mets are out of the fourth. No runs, one hit, no errors, one left. 3.5 innings gone. The Baltimore Orioles won, and the New York Mets nothing. Hey, Tony, tell Ted I'll check him out in his fly casting this winter.
You hear what Coach Teddy's going to check your fly casting out this winter, Teddy. Listen, congratulations on the fine year you had, and of course your ball. That was really great.
Well, the happy thing about it, as far as I'm concerned, is that we did a little better than most people thought. And I think that's the way the rest of our club felt, too.
Ted, you're going to get a lot of votes for Manager of the Year, and you deserve it. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's get back upstairs.
Boog Powell leads off for the Orioles in the last of the fourth. He singled to right his first time. Curve, didn't want to swing at it. Bud Harrelson charged it. Powell is out. Faster man might have beaten that one out, but Powell's not exactly a speed merchant. One down. You don't usually see him hold up on a swing like that. He usually goes through, whether he's made a mistake or not. Brooks Robinson flied to deep center his first time. One out, nobody on. He pops it up to the right side. Al Weiss puts it away, and that's out number 2. And since that leadoff homer to Buford, Tom Seaver has been tough for the Orioles. Ellie Hendricks popped up his first time.
Number 10, Elron Hendricks.
Base hit by Hendricks. The third hit for the Orioles, their first hit since the first inning. Dave Johnson, the batter, fly to center his first time.
Kurt, this is the Oriole bat boy, Amazin, who has those artificial limbs, and he's used those artificial limbs since he was 2 years old. He was unfortunately in a very bad fire, but those artificial limbs have not hurt this youngster one bit.
The strike shows what you can do when you want to do it.
Kurt, amazingly enough, that youngster we just saw is also a bowler and bowls over 150 a game.
That's really something. 3-1 the count. Let's watch here. 2 down. Hendricks is holding ball 4, and the Orioles have runners on first and second. And that's the first walk given up by Tom Seaver. Belanger grounded to third his first time up. 1 ball, 1 strike. There's a base hit to right. Swoboda's firing to the plate. The throw is off. The throw to third is not in time. Belanger singles to right. Swoboda charged that ball. Looked like he had a good play at the plate, but as you saw, his throw was off.
Kurt, here it is in slow motion. The pitch was outside. Belanger went with the outside pitch right between the second and the first baseman, Weiss to Clendenin. Swoboda tried to come home with the throw, may have hurried the throw, and it was down the third base foul line. And then the throw from the catcher Grody on to Charles was also late.
So the Orioles now have Dave Johnson at third, Belanger at first. Give Belanger an RBI. And his hitting down there in that number 8 spot has been so vital for the Orioles all season. The pitcher, Mike Cuellar's up. He struck out his first time. The Orioles lead now 2-0. Runners on first and third, 2 down. It's a little looper. Base hit in the left center. In the score is Dave Johnson. Belanger stops at second, and Cuellar helps his own car. And he doesn't want a warm-up jacket.
In the bottom of the fourth, Seaver gets into trouble. Elrod Hendricks singles. With 2 outs, the Orioles have a man on first. Dave Johnson walks, moving Hendricks to second. Mark Belanger singles to right. Here comes Swoboda's throw. Hendricks scores. Johnson goes to third. Men on first and third, 2 out. The Orioles leading 2-0. Pitcher Mike Cuellar at the plate. He bloops a base hit to left. Johnson scores easily. Belanger goes to second. Cuellar's on first. 3-0 in favor of Baltimore as a harried Tom Seaver faces Don Buford.
4 Orioles in a row have reached base. 3-0 Baltimore. There's a drive to right field. That's into the corner. Coming in to score is Belanger. Cuellar's going to third. And in the second goes Buford with his speed. A double. And now a belt in the right field. Caroms off the wall. Belanger scores easily. Buford has himself a double. And there's happiness in Birdland. Five in a row have reached now for Baltimore. Paul Blair's up. He's the 8th batter of the inning, and we're going to get some action now in the Met bullpen. Rube Walker, the Met pitching coach, coming out. Seaver was sailing along. He had Powell on a grounder, Robinson pops up, and then Hendricks single, Johnson walked, Belanger single in a run, Cuellar single in a run, and Buford's double in a run. Ron Taylor warming up. 4-0, Baltimore leading. They've scored 3 times here in the last of the fourth. Runners on second and third, 2 down. 6 hits off Seaver for the Orioles. Curve is hit to third. Charles up with it. And that's it. 8 men went to the plate. 3 runs for the Orioles. 4 hits. There were no errors and 2 left. At the end of 4 innings, it's Baltimore 4 and New York nothing. Once again, Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Kurt. Down here with me in the commissioner's box, David Eisner on my left and his lovely wife, Julie Eisenhower. David, what about this ball game? What about the ball club? Do you have a favorite?
Well, I definitely got a favorite. I'm a Baltimore fan.
You're sitting on the American League side.
I've always been on the American League side of things in the World Series. So I think I'm with most of the professionals and not very many of the fans, I think, in predicting a ball game.
Julie, you know your husband's probably the greatest baseball fan I've ever seen. I had a chance to spend some time with him during the All-Star game. He knows more about baseball than any professional announcer I ever heard.
He really does. And you know the night that the White House had the party for all the baseball people? Well, one of the members on my dad's staff called David at work and sent her to Ruster's office and was getting all these statistics for my dad to use in his speech because David was the encyclopedia. They didn't even need to go to a book.
Well, I'm sure your father would like to be here, as great a sports fan as he is.
He really would. He was planning to come, and then he's having this Vietnam meeting, so he couldn't make it.
Well, Dave, thank you so much. Maybe we'll get back to you a little bit later. Thank you. I want to get some inside baseball knowledge from you in just a few minutes.
Good seeing you again, Pat.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Julie. Let's go back upstairs.
We're going to the fifth inning here in Baltimore. Ed Charles starts it off for the Mets. He struck out his first time. Bounding ball to Robinson. Backs him up. A hurry-up throw right on the button. 4 chances for Brooks Robinson in the game. Well, you talk about your great third baseman of all time. There's one of them. High trainer. Picked on the all-time team. Robinson. George Kell, Billy Cox when he was over with the Dodgers.
I'm sure the people in Brooklyn watching today, Kurt, feel that Cox is the greatest they've ever watched. The people here in Baltimore feel Brooks is the best.
Fly ball to right. Frank Robinson. Right fielder, 2 down. Brody has grounded out his first time up, and now Al Weiss is coming up. He walked in his first time. Player pitching 3-2. Weiss hits it to Robinson. Look at that tricky hop, and throws him out. That's the best fielding play of the game so far. That was a tough hop for him, Bill.
He stayed right with it, Kurt. It didn't fool him one bit. He had the glove down in good position, reached the glove down quickly, turned the neck, made the good hard throw right from the third base side, and right on target to Powell to just get the runner by 1 or 2 good strides.
So the Mets are down in order, and at the end of 4.5 innings, the score: the Baltimore Orioles 4 and the New York Mets nothing. We're halfway to the opening World Series game, and now to carry the rest of the way on play-by-play, the Baltimore Oriole broadcaster and telecaster, Mr. Bill O'Donnell.
Thank you, Kurt, and hello again, everybody. Seaver's only been really roughed up in 1 inning. That was last inning when the Birds batted 8 men, and here's Frank Robinson to start it off. High curve and ball 1. Robinson has batted twice against Seaver and has not hit the ball out of the infield. Struck out on the first, bounced out in the third. Deep left center field. This is A.G. in front of the warning track with a lot of room. And 1 away. A.G., like the Orioles center fielder, Paul Blair, goes back and comes in on a ball equally well. But he had a lot of time to get out to the center on the towering fly. Boog Powell has had a base hit. That came in the first inning with 2 out. And he also rolled out to short as he was jammed on a fastball in the 4th inning and off a check swing. Seaver today has tried to lean on the breaking stuff as much as his good fastball. Change up a little bit outside.
They're really feeding Powell a lot of curves. That must be the Met report on him and strategy. They haven't shown him too many fastballs, Bill.
They're trying to get Powell off balance. They gave him the heat that time, but Weiss was perfectly positioned. Weiss couldn't have played it any better defensively to get Powell on that hot shot 1 hop. So against Seaver, Birds have batted 2 men. They've both gone down, and here is Brooks Robinson. Brooks has made the sparkling defensive play of the ball game, has flied deep to center, and has popped up. 2 out in the bottom of the 5th inning. He went after the fastball, and no play for Grody, the catcher. On deck is the Oriole catcher, Ellie Hendricks. Again, the second baseman, Weiss, was perfectly positioned as Brooks lined out on the fastball to the second baseman. And so at the end of the 5th inning, the score is Baltimore 4, New York nothing. Well, the manager of the Mets, Gil Hodges, realizing he's 4 runs down to go to the top of the 6th inning, will pull Tom Seaver, and he will bat instead one of his catchers, Duffy Dyer. During the regular season, Dyer batted .257. He had 3 home runs and knocked over 12 runs. On the first pitch, the shortstop Belanger over near the hole for out number 1. Dyer, batting for Seaver, gets 1 pitch and grounds out short to first. A quick out to start the top of the 6th inning, and here's the expression and the feeling right now, pictured on the face of the Mets manager, Gil Hodges.
Number 20, Tommy Agee.
Here's the leadoff batter now, Tommy Agee, and he truly has to be one of the fine comeback stories of not only the Mets season, but the entire National League season. He got the curve, rainbowed in slowly for strike 1. The change curve was in, so both his strikes to Agee have been those let-up rainbow breaking balls. He got the soft curve 3 times for 3 looking strikes.
Watch Cuellar now. 5 pitches he's using in this game. And this is that soft curve that he's using as a changeup. Long stride for him. Throws them all off that same motion.
All right, Kurt, here is Bud Harrelson, the shortstop. 2 gone, nobody aboard. Right. Well, he was waved to first base. Soar came up with the right arm and then pointed, said, go to first base. Second walk has been issued now by Cuellar. He walked Weiss back in the 3rd inning to lead it off. Cleon Jones coming on for the 3rd time. He has one of a pair of hits off Cuellar. Popped him up. Powell might have a chance. Powell in foul ground off the first base side to retire. The Mets in the top of the 6th inning. And so at the middle of the 6th inning, the score is Baltimore 4, New York nothing. This is Elrod Hendricks leading off against the new Mets pitcher, reliever Don Cardwell. And he opens him up with a wide fastball. Cardwell, 6'4", 220 pounds. And that's his 1 lost average on the year. He's a 33-year-older. Been with quite a few ball clubs. Outside again. 2-0.
You know, Bill Mayo Smith was talking about the Orioles in spring training. They had a fantastic record in spring training. They started winning from the opening game, and they haven't stopped since.
As a matter of fact, Earl Weaver was asked after spring training, how are you going to do in the regular season? And he said, just like we did in spring training. The first baseman, Clendenin, for the easy putout on Hendricks after he had pulled ahead of the reliever Cardwell, 2 balls and no strikes. Cardwell now walking back to the mound, in addition to being with the Mets, has been with 3 other National League ball clubs. Here's Dave Johnson. He has flied to center, walked, and scored a run, and he scored during the 3-run bottom of the 4th inning. We're 1 away in the top of the 6th, in the bottom of the 6th inning. Third baseman, Charles, with no trouble to retire Johnson easily, and that's 2 up and 2 down. Probably Cardwell's greatest contribution, as we now have Mark Belanger coming on to that in the bottom of the 6th inning. Cardwell's greatest contribution was towards the tail end of the season. He's primarily a breaking ball pitcher. 1-2. Pops him up in foul ground. Clendenin, the big, tall first baseman, and Cardwell in relief has a 1-2-3 inning to retire the Orioles. And so, at the end of the 6th inning, the score is Baltimore 4 and the New York Mets nothing.
The Baltimore pitchers have now allowed no runs in 39 consecutive World Series innings. Back in the '66 series, after the opening game, McNally, Palmer, and Bunker pitched consecutive shutouts against the Dodgers, and Cuellar has shut out the Mets here in the first 6 innings of this opening game of the '69 World Series. So here we go now to inning number 7, and Bill O'Donnell again.
Thank you, Kurt, and to lead off for the Mets in the top of the 7th inning, it'll be Clendenin, their number 4 batter, to be followed by Svoboda and Charles. And one of the men, Kurt, to be remembered in that '66 World Series, the great relief job by Grabowski. Grabowski pitched better than 6 innings of relief for McNally in that first game and struck out 11. 1-0 from Cuellar. The screwball for 1 ball and 1 strike. On deck, this is Ron Svoboda. Up the middle for a base hit line to center field, and Clendenin has a 2-for-3 afternoon. Clendenin had the last base hit off Cuellar.
Here he is. Watch it. Head on the ball. Eyes right on that ball. A good follow-through. And he's been the best hitter so far in the game for the Mets.
Clendenin singles for only the third hit of the game off Cuellar. Swoboda walks. Clendenin going to second.
He loses him, and that will move Clendenin to second base. So now the Mets have their biggest rally of the ball game. The Mets are down by 4. They've come back many times during the season. And this will bring on Ed Charles. Right field, Frank Robinson's got to get a long run to the foul line along with Dave Johnson. The runners did not tag, the runners stay. And Frank Robinson made sure before he threw back to Belanger whether Clendenin was going to go. This is Yogi Berra with his runner at first base, Svoboda.
Let's remind the fans that during the World Series rule changes, the manager can go to the mound as many times as he wants, and the rule that the pitcher must throw in 20 seconds is out here too. So those are two minor rule changes that are in effect here for the World Series.
All right, Kurt, 2 runners still on for the Mets, now with 1 away. And here is Jerry Grody. Clendenin second, Svoboda first. The outfield right now is spread pretty good to Grody with the power pockets open. And Belanger couldn't get to it. The Mets may have their first run. Buford throwing home, and then Clendenin decides to stay at third base. Clendenin took a big turn. Yost held him up. And the Mets have the bases jammed with only 1 gone in the top of the 7th inning. Grody got a good rip at an inside pitch right about hand high and ripped it right past Belanger, the shortstop. Weiss has walked on a 3-2 pitch and sent a tricky hopping ball to Brooks Robinson at third base, who threw him out in the 5th. Mets with a big chance. 3 balls and 2 strikes. There is only 1 man out, so that will not release the runners. And that's the impatient scene in the Oriole dugout. Deep left field. Buford, however, is in position. Clendenin trying to come home on the throw, which is way off the third base line. Weiss got a good rip and lined it to fairly deep left field, and Buford's throw was wild and way wide of the plate.
Al Weiss at the plate. On the sacrifice fly, the left fielder Buford, Clendenin tags up and scores. And the Mets score their very first World Series run ever.
Here's the pinch hitter now who will bat for Cardwell, Rod Gasper.
Your attention, please. Batting for Cardwell, number 17, Rod Gasper.
Gasper batting for Cardwell. Seaver started the game and went 5 innings. A tough play for Brooks Robinson at third base. Extremely tough, and made the play.
Brooks Robinson putting on a fielding show here. This is the hardest play a third baseman has to make. Charging the ball, picking it up barehanded, and snapping the throw all in the same motion. And look at this throw, right on target with something on it. Robinson's made the 2 best fielding plays of the game so far.
And in the middle of the 7th inning, the score is Baltimore 4 and New York 1.
In Baltimore, they call Brooks Robinson the human vacuum cleaner, and now you'll see why. Pinch hitter Rod Gasper pops a tough one to third. Robinson comes in, makes a sensational play for the 3rd out. And this play proved to be the turning point of the game.
Right now, let's go downstairs. Tony Kubek has someone.
Thank you, Bill. With me is Joe Cronin, the president of the American League. And, Joe, they're comparing this Baltimore Orioles ball club to some of the Yankee clubs back in the 60s. They say it's one of the best ball clubs to come along in the American League in a long time.
Well, I agree with the critics. I really think the Baltimore club is playing with the same Yankee confidence. They've been together now for 2 or 3 years, and this swale of the pitcher added to their good pitching staff, and Ballinger's come into his own, and you know, you being a great shortstop knows we realize how much. And Robinson, of course, is as good as ever, and Powell's improved right along. It's a good ball club. I particularly like Seaver today, Tony. I thought he had good stuff and good changeup, good motion, good curve. But those base-on balls will get you in trouble.
Well, Joe, we're going to see some of these Mets pitchers throughout the rest of the series. I know you're going to New York, but when you see Kuzma in the mound, another hard throw, Tug McGraw, Nolan Ryan has great stuff. So I think you're looking forward really to seeing this Mets ball club a little bit more.
It's going to be a great pitching series, I say.
Joe Cronin, thank you so much. Let's get back upstairs.
All right, thank you, Tony. And here is the third Mets pitcher now. Their second reliever, Don Cardwell, went the 6th inning, retired 3 in a row. This is another right-hander, Ron Taylor, and he is a Canadian lad. Cuellar tried to get that outside pitch, was fooled by it. He had a lunge for it and couldn't get to it. So now relievers for the Mets have retired 4 in a row. And the greeting is for the leadoff batter, Don Buford. He has homered. He has been safe on an error and doubled over a run. Don with his best season in the American League. That should be a play for A.G. over in right center field or Svoboda. It is A.G. calling off Svoboda, and there are 2 away. He loses him, and that's the Orioles' first base runner since the 4th inning. Blair's running, and they've got him in a rundown. Taylor goes to Clendenin. Clendenin running back to Weiss. Weiss running him back, and Weiss will make the putout to retire the side. It goes 1, 3, 4 for the putout. And that means Frank Robinson will begin the bottom of the 8th inning. And so at the end of the 7th inning, the score is Baltimore 4 and New York 1. The Mets now in the 8th inning start with the head of the order, Tommy A.G. And he got the slider into his hands for strike 1. Cuellar has not thrown that slider too much. He's been screwball, fastball, and let up rainbow curve. Down the right field side, being chased by Frank Robinson, close to the foul pole, but not close enough.
Just remind the fans, Bill, that tomorrow we'll be on at 1:30, an hour later, Eastern Daylight Time. World Series report with Jim Simpson, Sandy Koufax, and Mickey Mantle. Then Game 2 of the World Series, Jerry Koosman pitching for the Mets and Dave McNally of the Orioles. And right after that, we'll go to football, AFL football, and we'll tell you more about it later.
All right, Kurt, 2 strikes to A.G. And he gets him on 3 pitches. 6 strikeouts for Cuellar. He has fanned A.G. twice, once looking and now swinging. It'll bring on the Mets shortstop, Bud Harrelson. 3-2. Tough play for Belanger, and he won't get to it. Right in the hole between Brooks Robinson and Mark Belanger. The last inning, the Mets had a rally going, a run and 2 hits they picked up. Now they try to start something afire with a 1-out single by Harrelson.
Number 21, Leon Jones.
Jones very aggressive with the bat and probably makes the best contact of anybody in the Mets club. Johnson gets 1. Belanger won't get 2. Johnson had trouble on the low line drive right between the ankles and the shoes and did not have enough time either for the double play. Belanger threw as hard as he could, but Jones, who has outstanding speed down the line, beat Belanger's fire to power. 2 out, Jones is now the runner.
Let's see how they work to Clendenin now. He's doubled and singled. He's been the toughest man for Cuellar today, and Cuellar might change his strategy a bit against him.
strikeouts, 2 in the inning, 7 for Cuellar. No runs, 1 hit, and a man left in the top of the 8th inning. And so, in the middle of the 8th inning, it's Baltimore 4, New York 1. Frank went from 268 a year ago to 308 this year. Tried the slider again. 1 ball and 1 strike.
He's deadly serious about becoming a manager, is he, Bill?
And, Kurt, as you know, for the 2nd straight winter, Frank is going to manage in the Puerto Rican League at Santurce.
Smart baseball man. He should be a good manager.
He's made statements and hasn't kidded anybody. He says he wants to be a major league manager. He does not want to manage in the minors. He wants to start in the big time. All Frank has seen now is breaking pitches from Ron Taylor. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And Kurt, Frank will take quite a few of these Baltimore ball clubs to that Santurce club again this winter. And he got that slider upstairs a bit, but had that swing out in front. 2 strikeouts for Taylor in relief. He's faced 4 men. He's walked 1. Boog Powell has one of the Oriole base hits. That was a line single to right in the 1st inning. Since then, he's been handled twice on infield ground balls. He didn't waste it. Clendenin was perfectly positioned, playing close to the foul line, and has Powell for an easy put-out. Clendenin, when Powell swung, was only 1 good stride off that foul line. Powell back to the dugout, and the greetings for Brooks Robinson. Brooks was one of the hitting heroes in the American League Championship Series. He had 7 hits against Minnesota pitching. The Mets swept the Braves, and the Orioles did the same thing. They swept the Twins. 2 strikeouts in the inning for Taylor. He's got 3 strikeouts in 2 innings of outstanding relief. Ron Taylor. And so at the end of the 8th inning, the score is Baltimore 4 and New York 1. Before the Mets bat in the top of the 9th inning, downstairs to our good friend Tony Kubek.
Thank you, Bill O'Donnell. I'm talking down here to, your dad's a good friend of mine, Bobby Shylock. What does your dad do?
He's an umpire.
Which team are you rooting for, Bobby?
Baltimore.
Is your dad going to let you play hooky from school Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or Thursday up in New York?
I don't think so.
You think he's going to make you go to school?
Yeah.
Well, I thought he was a nice guy, but I'm not so sure. He'll let you see that ball game. Who are you pulling for?
Baltimore.
You got a favorite player on that club?
Brooks Robinson.
He made a good play, didn't he, a while ago?
Yeah.
Bobby Shylock, thank you so much. Right now, let's go back up to Bill and Kurt.
Thank you, Tony. And here are the Mets now in kind of a do-or-die top of the 9th inning with Ron Svoboda, their right fielder. Cuellar's going to have to hurry his throw and won't make a throw. Cuellar probably realized that he wasn't handling the ball properly. Also realized he might have had a tight play on Svoboda. So in his haste to get to the ball and throw, he lost it completely.
Cuellar can't find the handle, and Svoboda has a lead-off single.
And now the Baltimore bullpen springs into action. Rickard, a left-hander, and Watt, a right-hander, are starting to warm up.
Ed Charles now the batter. Blair has it in range in dead center field. 1 gone in the top of the 9th inning. Jerry Grody now, the Mets catcher. Strike 3 is called. 8 strikeouts for Cuellar. 8 of them. Cuellar, since the All-Star game, has won 13 ball games and lost only 2. And a reminder that immediately following our ball game, stay tuned for World Series report. And World Series Game 2, followed by AFL football. That's tomorrow. Three balls, no strikes to White. 4 pitchers, and the Mets, with 2 out, have 2 on, and that would bring the Mets with a tying run to the plate.
Player gets the next 2 Mets, and then Al Weiss walks on 4 pitches to put runners on first and second. Coming up to pinch hit for the Mets is home run threat Art Shamsky, the potential tying run, and the pressure now is on Cuellar.
Second baseman Johnson goes to first, and that's the ball game. Shamsky, batting for the pitcher, has grounded out to end Game 1 of the World Series. Baltimore has been victorious by a score of 4-1. Cuellar had a shaky 7th, a shaky 9th, but pulled out of both games. We'll have an interview along with Tony Kubek and a recap of the first game. The final score, the Orioles, 4 runs, 6 hits, and no errors. The Mets, 1 run, 6 hits, and 1 error.
Shamsky grounds out, and the Baltimore Orioles win the opening game of the World Series 4-1.